What's going on, guys? Dreaded D here, the infamous pirate captain guarding T-Fuel Island. Wanted to do some post-interview thoughts. Greatly appreciate my good friend Big Dog for having me on last week, and wanted to discuss some things that maybe I couldn't formulate in an hour live stream or couldn't think of in the moment. These points and these clips that we're going to be discussing, obviously, this is not financial advice. Leave your fiat in your bank accounts, as Big Dog says. And we're going to go over some stuff and then discuss some things. And obviously, just for entertainment purposes only, do your own research. And we'll get into the first one. The first one has Gary Gensler, Jay Clayton, Vitalik Buterin, and Charles Hoskinson. So let's get into it.
If it's a security, we're regulating it.
But that's one of the scenarios where we run out into those genie distribution issues, right? Because if one person becomes too big in the beginning when the currency launches, if one person has even just 20 or 30% of all Ether coins, then wouldn't that kind of create a huge disbalance from the get-go?
Yeah, that's exactly. That's actually one of the reasons why we wanted to have this kind of sale. Because if you look at what Ripple did, Ripple followed the just sell to venture capital strategy, which is legally easier, but it ensures that the Ripple currency units are concentrated in the hands of a few people.
Yeah, venture capitalists.
Yeah.
When I was there, I said, look, if we're taking other people's money, we have to put that money into a structure that creates accountability. Furthermore, we have to put golden handcuffs on the founders and keep them loyal to the project because there's too many of them. There's 8 founders. And if they're not locked into something, then what's going to happen is they're all going to run away and create their own ventures, which is what they did. Anthony did Decentral, Gavin did Polkadot and Parity. I did Cardano. There's 7 of the 8 are gone. And furthermore, the incentives were set up that we got paid up front with a founder reward, which I didn't take, the other 7 did. Basically, if the project's successful, hallelujah. If it fails, hallelujah. But you've already got your maximum reward up front. Whereas in an equity finance model, you have to build value over time and you have a venture capital arm keeping you accountable. So there was a fundamental disagreement about business strategy and execution vision. And I felt a for-profit model with VC money to build the protocol made a lot more sense. And then when the protocol was done, spin it out and have a governing foundation run it would be probably a much better approach.
So that means anticipation of profits on the efforts of others. I think it's kind of just like reasonably clear. I would say very clear.
I agree completely with Gary Gensler. It's very clear what these things are. And the fact that we're getting misinformation from every different angle is very concerning, as the regulatory bodies within the U.S. are perpetrating all different results. We have this competition between the CFTC, the SEC, the DOJ. Everyone wants a piece of this action right now. And it's showing its true weakness as we proceed forward into this. I would advise you guys to go back and listen very closely to what Charles Hoskinson said about, how Ethereum started. Ethereum, with raising capital, 7 of the 8 got a founder's fee. So they got, I think it was like $1.6 or $1.5 million up front. So, like Charles said, either way they win. And because there wasn't golden handcuffs on the founders, they all left and went to do their own projects. So, in that sense, with the XRP, the Ripple case, there's not a lot of legroom for the SEC to stand on in this case because there's too much ammunition that Ripple can throw at them from the previous history of what has occurred and what they have allowed to occur. Now, if the SEC had brought all these allegations about against Ripple XRP, and Ethereum back in the early days, it would be a different story. But so much time has passed by now. So it's going to be very difficult for them to do anything. There's many points, and I have this current Howey test chart here to help visualize and help represent what I'm trying to explain here. And for the most part, all of these projects have started from a foundation, or they had a centralized entity that pulled them in, and it's on the fourth issue of the profit coming from the efforts of the promoter. The promoter would be Ethereum Foundation, Ripple Labs, or Theta Labs. Those would all be considered promoters. And you could dictate and you could say that, well, Ethereum developers now dictate the direction. Like you have projects like Uniswap, you have projects like, so it's not the promoter that's dictating the profits from that direction. Or you could say the same with Ripple Labs. You could say, oh, well, Coil, or people doing the Interledger protocol, or people that are building other things on Ripple are doing things. Or in Theta's case, you could say Gpool, like the profits are derived from someone who's other than the promoter, someone who's outside the scope of the actual Theta Labs team. So you could make these arguments, and this is where the waters get very, very muddy, is trying to determine how that fourth box fits. And I think that's the purpose of the Ripple XRP case. The Ripple XRP case is to provide the regulatory clarity on the books. Because right now we have a bunch of people that work in office and have said things, but those things are not the official stance of those regulating bodies. And because of that, it creates issues. Now, the Howey test was built way, way back to set the precedent for securities, and it was the case that set the precedent for securities. I am of the opinion, this is just my opinion, the Ripple case, Ripple XRP case, is going to set the precedent for the new era, basically. It is the Howey test of our generation. It is the precedent case that's going to set the tone for the rest of the world. So, and we'll see how that plays out, because they just have way too much ammo in their corner to use against Ethereum and what they've done. Because at the end of the day, Theta and XRP, Ripple XRP, went the venture capital route, which is the more, just like Vitalik said, is the easier way, and same with Charles said, the easier way, or the more professional way to go about it. But at the same time, they're all in the same boat. They all raised money, and now we're all trying to figure out where this is all going to proceed and what was the right direction to go in. Now, Ethereum, if the SEC is going to pick winners and losers, then obviously Ethereum is going to be viewed in a certain light compared to these other projects, but I don't see how they can do that with the current circumstances of the past history and the past things that have been said. William Hinman made the statement on June 14th, 2018, which is famous across the space for when everyone thought there was clarity on Ethereum and Bitcoin as being non-securities. And for the most part, most people still, I think in my opinion, still think that that's the direction things are going to go in. Very well could be. There's a lot of money at play here. And he also made the statement that blockchain token is not a security once it becomes sufficiently decentralized. The problem with that statement is that it's a fluff statement. There's nothing to back those words. What is sufficiently decentralized? What does that mean in terms of law and having something on the books? There is nothing on the books. That is completely an opinionated response. So, the other thing to note as well too, while he was at the SEC, he was receiving a pension of $1.6 million from Simpson Thacher. And Simpson Thacher is on the board of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. So there's a lot of ammo in Ripple's chamber for conflict of interest, doublespeak, especially with how things have been presented. And if we look at the SEC court transcript, I'll read it back. Just a quick clarifying question. You distinguished the speech, Mr. Hinman's speech, suggesting it was not a pronouncement, but rather just a speech that referenced Bitcoin, and so is it. Does the SEC take a position that as of a certain date, its position was official as to Bitcoin and Ethereum? So, I want to make clear that this is my understanding of the current situation, and I don't want to be overly technical, but the SEC itself, my understanding, it has not taken an official position. There is no action that it took to say Bitcoin is not a security or Ethereum is not a security. So, for multiple years, people are under the assumption that the opinion of a person who's working within a regulatory body is the actual foundation of what they stand upon. But in reality, these people are just going about and saying things. Now, one thing to note is in his statement, he says, "Oh, it's just a pronouncement of me," but the speech that Hinman was reading from was written by people that were working under him at the SEC. So the speech was written for him by those people. So is it his opinion or is it the SEC's opinion? It's a very contradictory issue in this situation. So, and the next clip I'm going to show is of Michael Arrington. Michael Arrington, from the early days, I agreed with him on a lot of stuff, and I understood why he had Arrington XRP Capital. You know, the smear campaign against XRP and Ripple didn't make sense to me. Both are you're raising money. You are trying to build something from the ground up, a product, a service. You know, whether one went the venture capital route or one went the ICO route, you are trying to essentially create products that are self-sustaining into perpetuity. So, same with Theta versus Ripple. Both went the venture capital model. Same base layer, different token distribution. Ethereum, ICO, Cardano, ICO. One did a public ICO. Cardano did a no U.S. investor and AML and KYC requirement ICO. You know, multiple different ways of doing things, but at the end of the day, trying to achieve similar or close goals. So we'll play that next clip.
This industry is insane. So there's Bitcoin maximalists, but everybody agrees, like, you know, XRP sucks, and I don't really get it, right? I mean, they're a legitimate company. They don't pretend to be something they're not, and they're really good at one thing: moving money fast and cheap. And it's fantastic. It fills a big need. And for a hedge fund like us to be able to denominate in Ripple and XRP, I just did the same thing, is really, really, really good. We did our first close. We moved north of $50 million into the company in Ripple and XRP in like 2 seconds, and it cost 30 cents. Now, that is amazing. There's no way to do that with fiat or Bitcoin. There's just no way to do it that fast and that cheaply.
Yeah, Michael Arrington is exactly correct. The ability to transact large amounts of capital very, very cheaply is very understated with the XRP ledger, and doing so in a very quick way. And that's, to me, especially from the last, when I was doing an interview with Big Dog, trying to get the point across that whatever the railway is going to be into the future, like Bitcoin as a store of value, great idea. But the railway for all the value, all the monetary system value, that's the golden goose. That's the investment, not financial advice, of the next 3 centuries. Because whatever railway the stock markets, the derivatives, futures, options go on to is going to be the biggest winner of them all. Because you're dealing with all financial products. You know, generational wealth, life-changing money, not financial advice. But whatever is going to be the railway, whether it's XRP, XDC, XLM, or a totally different crypto, the railway is going to be the most revolutionary trade of a lifetime. That is the trade of the life right there. Even more so than the thousands of percentiles on some of these assets on here. Because when you're dealing with that amount of capital, it's insane to think about. And I'm going to play a video from the Flare CEO that I've used to try to help me understand proof of stake versus something like Ripple or XRP or XLM, where it's not the same. The token in Ethereum is the security of the network. The token acts as a security mechanism, whereas in programs like XRP, XLM, the token doesn't act as a security mechanism. The validators act, but they don't act. It's not a value derived safety net. which is a key difference between the two models. And I think the Flare CEO explains the differences and helps explain for me some of the weaknesses within that. And I think we'll give that a listen.
As to how to scale Ethereum, or how to scale smart contracts, really. And what you've seen over the last couple of years is a huge move into proof of stake. And proof of stake is great, but it has some issues that we sort of considered a while back. One of those issues is something that a researcher called Taran Chitra has put a paper out on, which is that alternative uses for the token, alternative uses for a staking token, can cannibalize the safety of those networks. Now, actually, although that can probably be rectified in certain ways, that's actually the least of the issues we have with proof of stake as a scaling capital. Really, the largest issue we have is that it's extremely inefficient in terms of capital usage. To illustrate this, let's just define what proof of stake is doing. Essentially, it's basing the safety of the network on the value of the staking token. So when Ethereum moves to proof of stake, the safety of the network will partly be based on the value of Ethereum. So that really caps the use cases that it can reliably be used for without a massive expansion of the value. The problem with having a massive expansion of the value is this. Now, let's say you want to represent the value of a stock market on a blockchain that is using proof of stake. Let's say that stock market is worth $1 trillion. You would have to obviously have all those assets represented on the chain, and that's $1 trillion worth of value. Now, that's fine, but then to secure those assets on the chain, you've got to have a vast amount of stake. And that's where your capital inefficiency comes from. So, and in order for that stake to occur, to exist, it's not the case that things just automatically go up in value. They don't. That is happening because people are essentially buying tokens, and ultimately, for it to reach that kind of value, people would have to be buying these staking tokens in such a vast amount that they would be diverting really very meaningful amounts of capital away from other productive uses to this use. So that's our core issue with proof of stake, in that we think it scales the number of transactions per second, but we think it falls down in the scaling of value. And we haven't seen convincing arguments as to why that's not the case. So that's our sort of first major issue with proof of stake. Our second major issue with proof of stake is because it's controlled by a token, because the network is controlled by a token. The network's safety is controlled by a token. Ultimately, the owners of that token control the network, and that's fine, except if the owners of that network are somewhat nefarious, or it allows for actors who one wouldn't wish, or not even one, but who businesses simply wouldn't wish to be in control of the network, to take control of that network. And so what that means is that I feel it's going to be extremely hard for businesses who wish to use public blockchain to adequately get comfortable with the risk that those tokens and the control of the network could actually support their business, and that they wouldn't be at risk from some kind of issue. So that's really what is the purpose of Flare? Flare does not use value for safety.
Yeah, and XRP does not derive security from token value as well. And that's key for things like applying traditional finance from the old era to the new era and putting them on chain, putting all the derivatives markets on chain. To do so, you wouldn't have to purchase or secure a ton of Ethereum to secure an asset that you already have possession of. That's a complete waste of capital, super capital inefficiency. Now, there are things like XPRT, persistence programs that are coming out, and things are going to change in this space very rapidly, where you'll be able to stake a token and at the same time create a wrap version or a secondary version so that you can now go and utilize that token outside of the staking. The challenges that are presented with that, though, or if you mess up or something happens with the wrap version, or you move it onto a platform that's not secure, then you won't be able to unlock your real version of said token. So there's stuff coming out that's new, innovative, that may change, and maybe that's something the Flare CEO in this last part didn't anticipate in his comments. But I think he makes a very good point when you derive token value and network security together. Things like XRP, Stellar, XLM do not do that. So because of that, they have efficient workloads that traditional enterprise organizations can utilize without potentially putting the value of the monetary assets into the hands of OG holders of, let's say, Ethereum, right? Because what you're doing, as you add assets to that network, you are increasing the value of the underlying network. And by doing so, if you aren't the one with, a decent amount of ETH stake or ETH vote weight, you are potentially putting all those assets and all those people's funds at risk. So for me, I don't see that as a solution for the traditional meeting the new era. So, Flare CEO, I think he raised some good arguments. I also think in Theta's case, he raised some good arguments because the staking model proof of stake can cannibalize a network in a way. And I thought about this the other week and discussed with some people. I'll give an example. Right now, Theta tokens, you're earning a little bit over 1% on your running a Guardian node. Now, let's say Celsius or a lending provider wants to offer lending via Theta, basically. So you lend your Theta to Celsius or Nexo, and they will give you stable coins in turn. Now, the stable coins earn 8.8% as of current. So is it better to lend it to the centralized provider and then you're going to earn more on a return basis because you're, if you have, I don't know if prices change, but 100,000 Theta, and let's just say that's worth $600,000, and you'll get a loan to value of 25%, so you'll receive 150,000 US dollars in USDC. Okay, well now you can utilize that USDC to earn and at the same time not sell your Theta. But indirectly, you have now given power to the lending provider, Celsius, because now if a majority, I don't think this is going to happen, but it's just an example. If a majority of Theta holders or a decent chunk move their funds over there because it's more efficient, taxes, all that good jazz, then you've given that lending provider an immense amount of power that users have traded for returns. So I can sympathize with the potential cannibalization of network when there's other things that can be done to pull stake away or pull stake into the hands of entities that are providing value to users. I don't think that's going to happen, but we're just merely entertaining the idea of potential issues we may see, not now, but 10 years down the road, and how we're going to proceed, how we're going to visualize things. And that's kind of the point of doing these interviews and discussing things. It's, there's going to be plenty of things that I'm wrong about, and that's okay. Being wrong is okay. And that's a hard thing I think people struggle with, is that you have to get to a point where it's okay with being wrong and building your foundation off of understanding how you went wrong and then growing from that. The final part we'll discuss is the crypto infrastructure bill. We touched on it. We listened to some stuff in the past interview, but now I think Charles Hoskinson said it best yesterday.
Not the proudest day for Americans, I'd say. Not the best day for crypto in the US.
It was like an ad for dementia medicine.
An ad for dementia medicine.
He's absolutely right. It was a complete shit show to watch. The understanding that this space is a global initiative, and the harder that they press against this, the more likely you're going to be pushing the competition overseas, and you could be potentially losing trillions of dollars in revenue if these companies and organizations can't operate within the states. So, now the IRS from CoinDesk yesterday saying that, we'll ignore how the bill defines a broker, but it's on a case-by-case basis. So, just like Charles said, it's a mess, basically. They don't know what they're doing. They basically have made decisions on things they don't understand, and we're all just kind of trying to live within their horrible decision making. So it was a last minute ditch effort, throw something into an infrastructure bill, just not the way things should be handled with a revolutionary industry that is growing very, very rapidly. So yeah, we'll see how things progress, and just keep going on. But basically, this whole infrastructure bill had no effect on the market. It was like the highest level FUD I think I've seen so far. So take that as it may. I think that's all I got for today, and hopefully you guys liked listening to some of the stuff I had to say. If you want me to do more of these, let me know. I love doing research. I love digging into things. So yeah, big shout out to Big Dog again. Thanks for having me on last week. I think we had a great discussion. I think it brought about some points that were very prevalent for in the time, and I'm looking forward to carrying on and enjoying the journey. So, all right, everybody, have a good rest of your day.